Noah, why would you use the narrative device of divorce to tell such a romantic story?
Why would anybody do that? Well, I think because it's more like something I think I kind of uncovered as I started writing, which was that there was an opportunity in telling a story about something that's kind of ending and coming apart to kind of acknowledge what the thing is itself that is coming apart and ending. So I was thinking, there's a philosopher who has a whole thing about, you know, if it's when something stops working that you actually kind of see it for the first time or acknowledge it. Like if you're going through a door and the door doesn't open, you kind of look at the door in a way that you don't normally look at it, you don't think about it. And so that was the opportunity that I kind of found in telling that story, telling this story, that in divorce I could actually kind of make it a love story.
This cast is bananas good. And I know which one of you I'd want representing me if I were in a pickle, Laura. Your character would have been really easy to make a villain. She's a lot more interesting in your hands. Can you talk about how you created her, especially the physicality of her? Like when she walks in the room, I just feel like she's gonna win.
Well, you know, Noah, as we can all speak to, is such an extraordinary guide, and it truly is all in the writing in terms of giving you the roadmap toward these characters and these people. And in the case of Nora, from his extensive research and almost a couple of years of continual conversations with us and Scarlett, I think we're learning so much as Noah is exploring it in terms of the business of divorce. That in terms of the physicality of the character, that too is even in the writing. I mean, down to the shoes. So
That's in the script?
I believe so, yeah. And so, you know, it was an amazing thing to get to uncover and discover, and it's really interesting. In addition to the story at hand, just in terms of the character, to play someone who is, as a female, seemingly, you know, ruthless in her determination to tell back to a client what they want and what their story is, even if they haven't necessarily shared those goals. And to sort of recreate or reframe the narrative for a family as your job, which is, I find, very interesting and unusual, a job. But that also, despite the fact that I have a lot of strong feelings about the way she goes about things, thanks to Noah's amazing monologue he gave that character, she's also right about the way certain things work. So it's a delicious fun and a great privilege to work with such extraordinary actors. So I'm just very blessed, and Noah is, you know, the gift of a lifetime for an actor.
Well, Alan, your character serves, I think, a really different function. Yeah, we're sharing mics, and we're going to let Laura and Alan negotiate on who gets it when. Your character, I think, serves a different function in the story. Can you talk a little bit about him and what sort of he's telling us about the business of divorce?
You know, it was very interesting playing this character because I always want to make sure I'm playing what the writer has in mind. And I knew that Noah was writing this from somewhat from his own experience and the experience of other people, real people who had really lived through this. And I wanted to make sure I had the right beat on it. And you know, my shoe size wasn't in the script. So I had it figured out, and Noah laughed at me at one point. After I did one of the lines, I turned to Noah and I said, "Oh, I get it. This guy is a rube." And he laughed at me because I was finally figuring out one aspect of this character. but I get it. I always get it in dribs and drabs. I don't always know who the person is until a surprisingly late moment. Actually, we watched the movie last night, and I saw who it was.
Adam, this movie has one of cinema's all-time great fight scenes. Nobody throws a punch, but it's, I think, like a 10-minute scene between you and Scarlett in that apartment. Can you talk about shooting it? And I understand you blocked it a bit. It was really a process to shoot that scene. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, we blocked it a lot. We rehearsed it, I think, we had like 2 weeks before we started shooting it, and then that scene, it's hard to talk about because we just kind of went in and did it over the course of 2 days, and I think we learned through the course of it that starting, we kind of had to do it all the way from the beginning. Even if you were at the latter part of the scene, we kind of had to start from the beginning and keep running it. So we wound up, I don't know who is keeping track, but even if we just had little pieces, we would always run it from the beginning just to kind of keep track of it in our minds. There wasn't, technically there wasn't a lot of talking about it, apart from, we rehearsed it very much like a play. I mean, that's also kind of in the nature of the way that Noah writes, is that, the words are the words, and but the intent can be different, and he leaves space in the schedule where you can find, where you can try new things and explore different meanings, and he's very good at being a barometer for what's working and what's not. It was exhausting, but when it's good writing, I feel like you really can trust it and lean into it, and it opens your imagination and gives you different ideas. And again, if you're coupled with a great acting partner, it makes it a lot easier. But it was a 2-day scene to shoot that we. Also the theme of theater is very much in the movie anyway. So this idea of performance, and he's a theater director and she's an actor, and then also the performance of getting a divorce, of suddenly you start to play these characters, and kind of the absurdity of the ritual with it. So there's a lot of that I don't know if that really helped us play the scene at all. I'm just giving examples of how, but it was very thought through and very talked about, as far as we crossing on which lines, and as you would a play. But we had a 5-month, what would be a 5-month play rehearsal process, obviously truncated to 2 days. But it was tough, but
what I would say about it too is that I'd say generally in movies leading up to this one, I've been able to, you just sort of naturally as a director, you keep a distance from what the material, even if it's emotional material, and that scene was very different for me. They both Adam and Scarlett revealed so much of themselves in that scene. What they were doing was both totally servicing the movie and the characters, and totally in character and everything, but it was really, I was kind of in awe of them, and it was very precise, everything. They had to move at certain points, because I knew I was going to cut right when he lunges here, or she turns her head here. And so they would do all of this very technical stuff, but then also, you've seen it. It's an extremely raw scene, and it's both like the unconscious and the conscious at the same time, and that's kind of my favorite thing about making movies and working with actors, is when that happens. But we would have to take breaks and walk around the block, and it was just it was the most difficult thing, I think I've ever been involved with, but I actually think it's the best thing I've ever been involved with. I think or something that I feel the most proud of, or the most what we kind of set out to do and what it actually was. Really because of what they kind of gave in their performance.
I will also say that that scene was longer than other ones, but and sometimes in a film there's a scene that you're always clocking when you first read it. I'm like, oh, that's going to be difficult, and you start to overthink it, and you know where it's at in the schedule. I'm like, oh, it's too soon. I wish it was later. I don't really know what I'm doing yet, and there's for whatever reason that you just kind of track that it's coming up, and with this. Every day felt like one of those scenes. I'm like, oh, this is Halloween. It's too soon for Halloween, or this is when this is the nice scene with Martha. And this one just seemed in the same because again, it's a testament to good writing that the stakes were so high always. But this one just seemed that, but longer, in a way.
David, this is your first time producing one of Noah's movies. You're best known for producing the Harry Potter movies, which are obviously very different, much bigger scale, very different type of movie. What was your biggest sort of challenge as a producer on this film?
Well, initially it was getting the financing because we were initially at Amazon, and then there was some changes there, and Netflix stepped in, and they were unbelievably supportive throughout. But in general, producing for Noah is not that complicated. I mean, he's incredibly precise. He knows exactly what he wants, yet leaves room for discovery. For me, one of the great lessons watching him was he does a lot of takes, and he knows what he is after, and he goes on a journey to find it, and yet it allows it to reveal itself to him. But as a producer, it's not. I probably should say it's really difficult, but no, it really isn't. I mean, he's an absolute pleasure. He's incredibly communicative. He lets you know what he wants, it was just making sure, I suppose, that the space around, because for him, the cast and the set and the intimacy of that is paramount, and he creates a really intimate space where everybody feels safe to do their very best work, where they feel, in his hands. And so, in a way, to create an environment to make sure that space exists, and to make sure that the noise did not just sound, but any noise, any interference was kept as far away as possible.
Noah, why did you have the musical numbers in the movie?
Why wouldn't I? It was actually an early part of in writing the script. Adam and I had talked about, we both loved the musical company, and we talked about that musical, and could you make a movie of it? And during that process, I listened to it a lot, and I thought, well, I really, even if we didn't pursue that, which we didn't, I want Adam to sing "Being Alive" in the movie. And I actually reverse engineered this entire movie. Just turned out it was a divorce picture, but I did in the script. As I was writing, I thought, well, whatever I do, I have to find a way to justify Adam singing "Being Alive." And then in the process of that, I thought, well, Scarlett should have a song too. And I loved, I took another song from Company, which I loved. It's "You Can Drive a Person Crazy." And I thought, they're theater people, and it's a way of expression in a medium they know and love and understand. And it would be a way to express themselves, maybe in ways that are more, I think more so in Adam's case, that have been more difficult for them. They haven't kind of, and that the song could be a kind of passageway to feeling.
The device of the kind of letters they write about each other, where did you come up with that idea, and why did you put that in the script? It was,
I guess, as far as I remember, it was pretty early. I think because the movie begins in some ways already at the end, or they think it's the end, but it's a long end. It was a way to, even in the writing, for me to kind of go and look at moments from before, from the marriage, or the marriage when it was before the separation begins, and so it just became a way to kind of check in with all the sort of ordinary moments that I think for all of us are extraordinary, because that's the moments of connection, the little things that maybe pass by unnoticed until you have to think about it and write it down. And so in some ways I gave myself the exercise that the mediator gives them, which was to kind of celebrate these two people, because that was so important for me, is that this movie be even-handed, and and that these people be celebrated. They go through a really hard time, but they deserve our compassion, I think. And so it was a way for me to kind of find that compassion as I was writing. I structured it in a way that that earlier on we were more in hearing from her. So it's natural as an audience, you trust the person whose story you're hearing, and you kind of lean that way. And then he kind of comes into the movie a little bit more, so maybe you lean more that way, so that in a way that the audience could kind of arrive in the later part of maybe the third part of the movie, that that you come to the point that they're both good people and they're imperfect, and everything's true and nothing's true, and and I think that was something that was sort of early on I wanted to kind of devise, and at the same point get them to sing a couple songs.
I definitely feel at the end like Nicole's gonna be fine. How is Charlie gonna be?
The movie ends for me at the same point it ends for you and everybody else.
Okay, Adam, how's Charlie gonna be?
The movie ends for me at the same time.
Well, I think that's a good point for us to end. Thank you all very much.
Thanks a lot.